Other yellow hat guy here, back with another video. This video is sponsored by my Patreons. Shout out to you guys for supporting me this month once again. Now, uh, I've been summoned by you guys, or the internet, to make another video about Sony. Now, it's hard for me to really talk about Sony without talking about Nintendo. It's kind of like their little brother that was bullied by them that they want revenge on. And I say that because, most of us gamers that were millennials, we had some kind of Nintendo system before Sony system. Generation came after us. PlayStation might have been their first one. Either way, it's not important. What is important is we're going to talk about the PlayStation Classic. Okay, so again, I mentioned Nintendo. This is not a video about Nintendo. You can find various videos online that explain why Sony and Nintendo aren't super friendly towards each other. Nintendo was in business with Sony making the sound chips, and they were going to have a joint system, and at the last minute Nintendo backed out because they felt like they weren't going to get as great of a deal as they had anticipated initially. That Sony was going to get more of the profits off of the physical medium than Nintendo would. See, Nintendo had an ironclad fist on the production of cartridge chips back with Nintendo and Super Nintendo, but with the CD that was created by Sony and Philips, Nintendo couldn't control any of that. So at the last minute, they jumped ship from Sony and got in bed with Philips to do a deal, and that gave you the CDI. But again, you can watch other videos online to find out about it, but my point is, Sony was really trying to do this Nintendo thing. They've been copying Nintendo from the beginning. I mean, the D-pad. The Switch kind of looks like that now, but the whole concept, if it wasn't patented, it would probably be the same thing. The layout, I mean, all start and select. Nintendo. This look familiar? PlayStation Move? Yeah, it should. It's a glorified Wii controller, Wiimote with the nunchuck. All that they've been copying. So I say all this to say Nintendo comes out with a Nintendo Classic, an NES Classic, and then eventually a Super Nintendo Classic. And guess what the fine folks at Sony decided to do? You guessed it! A Sony PlayStation Classic. Now, they marketed this at $100, and it had 32 something games, something like that. I'm talking about it because I'm not going to buy it, but I'd rather tell you why you shouldn't buy it. Now hold on before you get your pitchforks out and maybe X off the video. Listen to my thought on it. It's already not popular, so, there's me, the rest of the internet, and maybe 5 people who are excited about it and love it. But get this. They had the PS1. No, that's not the Classic, but it does more. It does more for you and around that price, or at least it was, than this Classic. This is pretty classic to me. It's got its own screen and speakers and what have you. It plays PS1 games. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm biased in that regard, that I don't want to double dip. And you could argue, well, Nintendo's come out with a mini version of the Super Nintendo back in its day, and now they have the Classic, and there's been slimline versions and all these other things, and that's fine. I'm from the philosophy of, hey, if you don't like it, just don't buy it. But here's where Sony dropped the ball. They released this thing for much more than they should have, in my opinion. But they didn't do a good job of it, evidently. It's just straight emulation. And that's not to say that the NES and SNES classics aren't emulation too, because they are. But they didn't even give you the best games, and they gave you versions of certain games from other regions. The emulation just wasn't up to snuff. I mean, it's a lot harder, I imagine, to emulate, PlayStation games than, 8-bit and 32-bit games, obviously, 16-bit games. But you sold this at $100. How did you mess this up? Like, what were you thinking? No, no, no. You should not have come out with this. You should have maybe had those games on your online store for people to purchase for the holidays. You rushed it out. You just really didn't care. And it was just a bad idea overall. Who buys into these things? The nostalgia guys. Guys like me, we buy those systems often. But the way I'm living my life now, I can't just buy those things just to buy them anymore. I'm sorry. Especially when they're not good. Now, evidently, they've already been hacked. Just like the Nintendo and Super Nintendo systems, those have been hacked to do other things. And I'm sure if you're a hacker, this might be something that you get value out of by putting other games on there. But it's like the regular PlayStation, you could spend less money and do the same thing. The PS2, the PS3. I mean, you don't have to spend $100 on this. And Sony, you should be ashamed of yourselves. It's just greed, and you want to get back at Nintendo. Nintendo's not perfect; they've got their flaws. They did start love hotels, and I won't say anything else bad because I don't want Miyamoto watching this video and just hating me. But you already won. You won the last two console wars. At least most people might feel that way. I'm still Team Nintendo for the most part. But the real loser is the consumer. We're hyped for these, PlayStation consoles. And, here we have a re-release, a classic, and it's garbage. Don't buy this. If you think it's a cruel idea or a sick joke to send me one of those, don't do it. I'll RTS it. I'll return to sender. I want no parts of it. It's just a waste of time. I just don't like it. See you in the next video.